How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is Sean Barnes. I want to welcome you back to the Way of the Wolf. Our guest today is a gentleman named Shane Missler. He is the VP and COO for a technology firm called SD Tech, responsible for designing, building business processes, and really scaling that company. And because they are focused in technology, and my background in technology, is really pumped and excited to have Shane come on the show. Welcome to the Way of the Wolf.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean. I appreciate it.
All right, man. So give me a quick rundown of what SD Tech is, what you guys do, and then expand a little bit on your role there at the organization.
Fantastic. So SD Tech, we provide three primary services for our clients: consultation, implementation, and management of IT and technology services. So when a company needs technology, and as you know, Sean, that's every company that's out there needs assistance with technology. But when you need assistance with technology and you don't have your own internal IT team or help desk, then you can look to a company like ours to partner with, and we act on your behalf. So we come in, we help identify what technology needs will best assist the business, and then we source it for them, we get everything implemented, and then we provide management of it afterwards.
Okay, nice. And so how long has SD Tech been around?
We've been around since 2000. Okay. So 24th year.
All right, nice. That's some staying power for sure.
Yeah,
and how long have you been with them?
So I have been with SD Tech since 2019.
All right. And so talk me through your role and what has been your experience as you stepped into this organization, and then we'll kind of get into some other questions that I have really specifically about your target customers. But talk to me about your experience there at SD Tech.
So my experience at SD Tech has been all over the place, Sean. I came into SD Tech as the fifth employee. I still say we are a relatively small company. I'm used to working for significantly larger corporations. So it was a big change for me to come in as employee number 5. And although SD Tech was established for 19 years at that point, it still felt like I was coming into what I would say is a startup. You know, it's five employees is a big difference. So I spent my first 3 to 6 months shadowing the CEO, getting to know the business, getting to know its clients. And during the first 3 to 6 months between myself and the CEO, we had no idea what I would be doing. I had genuinely no idea. And since then, I've worked in every aspect of the business. I assist with technical troubleshooting. I assist with the designs, the implementation, and the strategizing behind it. I help out with the franchise side of things with both sales and development. Right now, I'm working on redesigning our trainings. On Monday, I'll be working on building up a new VoIP system. So it varies heavily.
Well, I think what's interesting about that is, we'll say small to mid-sized organizations, as they are starting, as they are building and growing, people just wear a lot of hats. And there's pros and cons to that, obviously. Whenever you're wearing so many different hats, one day you're in sales, one day you're in designing data centers, that's great because you have this breadth of knowledge that expands so many different domains. And I think when people get access and exposure to all those different domains and are able to speak intelligently to what's going on in each of them, it makes you a very well-rounded employee so that you can better support and build the business. So how large are you guys now in terms of like headcount roughly?
So in terms of headcount, we're at about 15 employees.
Okay.
And just to give you a little bit more background, whenever I started with SD Tech, we were right under $500,000 in revenue, and I'm entering my 5th year working with the company, we've quadrupled that. So it's been expansive.
Nice. Okay, so talk me through. Now I'm really dying to know. Talk me through how in such a short period of time you were able to jump that revenue in such a significant way.
So I would say that there's 2 key factors to being able to jump that revenue. One, although I was employee number 5, the vast majority of the work that was being done by the owner, by the CEO. Wes didn't realize it whenever I first started. He thought that things were pretty equally shared. But what I noticed very quickly is that he was handling sales and development typically in the AM and in the late afternoon. And then right after doing his initial sales calls, he's assisting his technicians, the help desk team. And then in the late evening hours, I mean, when most people are in bed, he's coming through the administrative side, the billing side, and getting everything cleaned up. And so he had some good employees, but he didn't have anybody that was as invested as he was. So whenever him and I, when we found our stride, it really shared that workload across two people who were equally invested in the company and in the client. So that was the first one. And then the second one is we have grown our team out in a way that has truly allowed for us to have support to ourselves and to our client. And we have more individuals who, I won't say they're equally as invested, but they are definitely heavily invested in the company and our clients.
Man, it's so crucial to find the right talent when you are building a company. Well, quite frankly, any company that you operate in, finding that right talent is just absolutely crucial to the success of the business and the team and the culture that is created. So I'm curious, as you guys have been growing and adding members of your team in recent years, talk me through that process. How are you vetting these people and getting a sense of, are they going to be invested in our culture, or are they just looking for a paycheck, do the bare minimum, come in, go home? Talk me through that.
So again, there's two very distinct sides to this story, Sean. Wes, having been the founder owner of the business, and he's been in this for 24 years, his experience and his network is very centered around SD Tech and SD Tech's clients. Sean, this is Tesla. This is a benefit of working from home today. This is my cat. So his experience is very limited, and his network is, I don't want to say it's small, but it's limited from an employee pool. Now, my background is it's very varied, but I came from much larger corporate lifestyle, and I've managed, I can't even put a number on how many people, accumulatively it's been over the years, but in a couple of positions, I was managing 1,000+ people at a time. So I got to build a great network. And when I started with SD Tech and I found how much I loved what we were doing, how much I loved our company, how much I loved our clients, I reached back out over my 2 decades of professional experience, and I looked to a couple of key people that I had excellent relationships within, and I brought them into the business. So 3 of our key people, four now, I have known for 10+ years, and I've just been working with at SD Tech for 1 to 3 years. So that's been huge, right? And not everybody has that available to them.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been thinking about, I left my job in corporate America about 6 months ago to build up our company. We do a lot of leadership development, HR consulting, and some IT really on the strategic advisory side, but not really in the weeds of configuration and things like that. But as I've been meeting with people and networking with people, I'm envisioning really 2 pipelines. I have a pipeline of customers, but then also a pipeline of potential employees to service that work. And it's so crucial that employers consider and think through, okay, well, as we start landing more work and customers, we have to have employees to service that work. And I think you have to make sure as a business leader like yourself or Wes that you have to keep that in the forefront of your mind. As you're growing, as you're getting more customers, we have to make sure that we can bring in the right talent that can service that work, but not just service the work, service it in a way that actually aligns with how we like to deliver service. I'm quite certain you probably perform at a very high level, much like we do, and so we have to have a great pipeline of candidates that we know and understand they're going to buy in, they're going to be committed, and also they perform at a level that we're used to delivering service at.
That's all of that's so accurate, Sean, and that having the multiple pipelines and looking for that on a consistent basis it's crucial. So currently I've leaned heavily on my prior network and pulled in some key people, but that pipeline is going to run dry at some point. It might be a while, but it is going to be at some point. So our second pipeline is we've always gone to networking events. SD Tech has always gone to networking events looking to build out a new client base, right? Build new strategic partnerships. But one of the things that we've worked on over the last 2 years is as we're going out and we're networking, we're also looking and scouting for potential client or for potential employees. And we start fostering those relationships early on so that way we can avoid a lot of the headaches that the majority of companies run into where you're just opening up, an application and you're getting some resumes and you're trying to get to know people in a 5, 10 minute, 30-minute scenario versus organically getting to know them over years, the same way we do any other partnerships, any other relationships. So I do have a pretty different approach than a lot of people, but it's been very successful for us so far. And it is a lot easier to implement when you're running a small organization versus trying to manage filling 30 seats at a time.
So talk me through the transition of you going from leading, we'll just say close to 1,000 or around 1,000 employees into such a small startup. My experience has been similar in that I think my team was anywhere from 80 to 100 employees kind of over the years, and then going into a startup and only having 4 or 5 of us at any given time. It was such an incredible and unique experience, but talk me through what that was like for you.
So for me, at first, it was a culture shock. It just really was. I was so used to having a lot of structure built around how I managed my day, how I managed my team, what I expected. I was very used to looking at performance in thirds, knowing that I was going to have an upper third that was high performers, a lower third that were bottom performers, and now I'm managing. There are 5 of us total, right? So I mean, there's no room for stuff like that, and everybody's so vastly different. And when you're running with large teams, there's a lot of voices, there's a lot of personalities, there's a lot of individuals to get to know, and it's a very different approach to keeping everybody engaged. And previously, I was heavily focused on just leadership, and I mean that in its purest form, right? Just the interactions between individuals and leading them, and then there was a massive shift to having to wear multiple hats, and it's leading a group of individuals, it's growing a group of individuals, it's leading a group of clients and assisting those clients in growth, and then managing all aspects of the business. Typically, I focus on operations, but it's not just operations. When we're a small group, even at 15 people, I spend a good portion of my weeks assisting with sales and business development, with our franchise opportunities, and then with administrative, technical stuff. It's everywhere. But earlier, you had mentioned how when you have an opportunity to grow out these different aspects of yourself, working in a small business allows you to wear those different hats. And for me, that was a breath of fresh air because I get bored. I don't want to say easily, but I do get bored. And when I get bored, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of being bored. And so this has really allowed me to over the course of 4 to 5 years, I haven't experienced that. I haven't experienced any amount of boredom anymore, and I stay really engaged, and that's great for me. And it seems to be really good for our employees, for our business, and for our clients. So I love it.
Nice. All right. So I'm going to share a little bit about my experiences in working with MSPs over the years. My background being in oil and gas. Oil and gas is obviously highly acquisitive. I've been a part of about 48 integrations and acquisitions over the past 15 years or so.
Sean,
yes.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yes.
So I imagine you probably breeze over a little bit of this oil and gas experience.
Yeah.
When you say oil and gas, what exactly did you do?
Well, so my role, I was all in the technology realm. It was started off as an infrastructure manager for global infrastructure, had about 600 servers, 20 engineers that supported about 3,000 employees at Form Energy Technologies.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I left. And then I went over to an actual managed service provider in the Houston area for a little under a year. I was leading all their engineers, doing consulting and engineering, things like that. and then went over to a company called Nine Energy Service, where I was the director of IT, and then eventually VP of IT, and then HR and safety and transportation, kind of a number of different functional domains. But my background is really in the infrastructure space, building data centers, WAN architecture, and things like that. And then over the past 7 years, really gotten more into the people side of things, HR, safety, leadership, coaching, and things like that.
Well, that's awesome. I ask because when I say I have a varied background, I truly mean it. And I was a roughneck for 5 years.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, oil and gas background as well. Definitely. Okay. So, I guess my thought is I've worked with a number of different MSPs over the years. Most of these small to mid-size companies that we had acquired and would integrate, they leaned on MSPs quite a bit, just because there's challenges with finding the right skill set in-house and hiring. Say you've got a company of 100 employees or less. Let's just say 50 to 150 employees roughly. To hire the right IT manager that can understand the VoIP system, understand the Azure environment, understand your on-prem hardware or your SANs or whatever sort of storage technology. There's a lot of different technologies to lean on. And so you need a depth of knowledge and experience with all of those technologies, and to find all of that in one person can be extremely challenging. So these organizations in this size would lean on third-party MSPs like yourself, because you've got, well, let's just say 10, 15, 20 or more employees, all with varied skill sets, so they can handle it. Now, one of the things that I started to notice is the model doesn't always scale if a managed service provider has 40 or 50 or 200 different companies. It becomes increasingly complex and challenging to know all of the nuances within all of those customers. So, knowing all of that, my question is, how did you come in and start to determine the best way to manage and best support your customers at scale?
So that's an excellent question, Sean. So we have spent a lot of time over the last 5 years looking at which of our clients we enjoy supporting. I think that's actually really important. Which clients do we enjoy supporting? Which clients do we click with? Which ones do we vibe with the best? And then we then looked at which clients do we just have a really good handle on their technology needs, and which ones is it easy for us to foresee where they're going to go? Because then we can start to anticipate the technology needs. It allows for us to refine what research and development time we're spending looking for the new technology that's out there, because it's an ever expansive industry, and there's tons of new stuff coming out, and you can have 3 clients that have entirely different stacks. And if you're working with 3 clients with entirely different stacks, then you're going to be spread thin with 3, much less 5, 50, 200. So for earlier than 5 years, we made sure that all of the clients we're working with are utilizing one stack. So we have about 250 active clients right now, and that really ranges, Sean. When I say 250 active clients, several of those clients are 1 to 3 man shops. A lot of it might be like real estate agents or lawyers, different professions, but where the majority of their stack, right, quote unquote stack, is going to be basic networking, really, really basic networking, a router, firewall, switch, some Wi-Fi, a computer, Outlook, and then maybe a little bit more sprinkled in from like a cybersecurity and backup standpoint, but nothing expansive. And they're using the same stack that our larger clients who have 1,500 employees are using, just on a small-scaled version as opposed to the enterprise level. And so that's really assisted us. And then I could probably stop there. That is the number one thing. We refuse to work with technology, especially from a hardware standpoint, that is from outside of our stack, because it allows for me to keep my technicians up to speed on everything that's going on. They can stay looking for new bugs, new updates, and make sure that we're easily able to support all of our clients and not having to spread ourselves thin.
I like it. All right. So then that begs the question of what have you found to be the most successful approach in regards to management of change? Because inevitably, if you're onboarding new customers and they have switches, firewalls, routers that like Palo Alto, and you guys don't have any experience in Palo Alto, and we normally work with all Meraki or Cisco or whatever tech stack from a networking infrastructure perspective. Whenever you start onboarding those clients, I'm sure there's some sort of process around management of change or upgrading their infrastructure to kind of conform to best practices and the standards that you guys have set for your customers. Now that absolutely makes it much easier for you guys to manage at scale, but talk me through that change management process when you onboard a client.
That's an excellent question as well. So the change management process really comes down to a couple of things. One, we're going to analyze, right? There have been several clients where we have had a great relationship building experience with the client, and it really looked like this was going to be a great opportunity for us to onboard. But they oftentimes we do work with companies who have an IT director or manager or at whatever level or whatever title they have. So somebody that's on site that we partner with. And we have definitely ran into occasions where in the end, that individual did not want to switch over. So one of the first things that I find important to maintaining relationships like that is we have other companies, right? Other competitors that we are very closely partnered with, and we do not mind pointing them in the direction of one of our close friends and saying, hey, these guys specialize in the equipment that you're using, and if you want to stick with using that, then I suggest you talk with them. Because some background, 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, Wes partnered with a couple of his friends, and they built out a great other company. It didn't work out. We went our separate ways, and they're probably our strongest competitor in the local area, but we point different clients in the direction of each other because we know what we're going to want to support. So that's one. And then two, right, really answering your question with the change management piece, oftentimes there's a massive expense in upgrading your network. And when I say massive expense, that's going to look very different depending on the size of your business. But if you are a small, truly small business and you only have a router, one switch, and one AP, changing that is still a massive expense, right? It's going to be proportionate to your business. Since we are a small business, we're technically international. We do business from within most states, and I have a handful of clients that are in Canada. And I still think of us as a small business because we're able to come in and provide a layer of support that the larger companies either can't or won't. And so a big piece of the change management is we help offload some of that cost because our goal is to build long-term relationships that are going to flourish for 10, 15, 20 years. And so I don't mind eating some of that upfront cost to make it easier for our clients to make the transition because I know we're hard-headed. We're very specific about what we want to work with, and that change, nobody likes change. I mean, as a leader, I've taught and I embrace and how, we have to embrace change, but come on, nobody wants it. And especially when it comes to hardware and eating the cost of changing out that hardware, it's a pain. So then that's a big piece. And then we assist them through it. The stack we use has, a great interface for our clients to have a window into, and then we help them see that and walk them through it so that they're learning it. I say alongside us, but in a much smaller scope, and that usually helps ease the pains.
Man, so I love that approach, and yeah. So as I made a couple of notes here, but whenever it comes to upgrading your tech stack in your company, I see a lot of business owners that they struggle with the cost associated with upgrading their, we'll say, firewall or name your technology device, because they're like, oh man, that's a $4,000 piece of equipment. Well, like why would I do that? I don't even have a firewall today. so why do I need to invest in this, right? So as a tech provider, you guys can kind of explain the value and why it is so crucial, but there's still the expense piece of it. And what you just described, I don't know the kind of the nuances with how you guys operate, but the fact that I think the comment you used is you're willing to kind of burden some of that upfront cost to have and create a long-standing partnership where it's mutually beneficial, like a mutually beneficial exchange of value, I think is probably the best way to describe what I heard from you. But there's still a lot of business owners that they struggle with that cost. They see technology as just a cost center as opposed to a business enabler. And in my experience, if you go ahead and spend the extra money, spend the $1,000 on a laptop as opposed to $300 on a laptop, it pays for itself in dividends on the big end because your employees are going to be that much more proficient. They're going to be able to work that much faster over the 3-year lifespan of that device, as opposed to them waiting on a spinning hard drive. I don't think there's really many of those these days, but waiting on a slow computer to get their work done. You just think about that extra 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day that they spend dealing with slow technology, as opposed to just spending the $1,000 doing it right the first time and then not having to worry about the technology going forward. So is that a battle that you guys struggle with very often?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. And so while there's many cases where we will burden the cost or we will help find ways to make things easier when transitioning from whatever our client is using to what we would like for them to be using, that's not always the case. And when it's just looking at upgrades for our clients or looking at new technologies for an existing client, we aren't always going to burden the cost, because I believe it's best for you to have better cybersecurity so you're not leaving your clients at risk, right? I mean, there's trade-off there. But there's actually still plenty of people who are in business using spinning hard drives. There are plenty of people who are in business using outdated OSs that have massive, security risks. All of that's there. And to your point, the vast majority of small to medium-sized business owners think of technology as just a cost. And unfortunately, it isn't until they experience excessive downtime or actual cybersecurity threats that they realize, okay, maybe it's more like an insurance, or maybe it is a way that I am actually making my employees more efficient throughout their day. But we want to assist individuals, business owners, in understanding that they don't have to experience those hardships in order to start planning for them and getting around them. But showcasing technology and helping them understand how it has proven to make frontline employees, especially frontline employees, more efficient by getting them computers that work appropriately. That's helpful. We come in, and one of the things that I do to really help break down those barriers early on is I help them understand that my primary goal as a consultant isn't to get them to spend money, but to, one, help them avoid overspending in areas that I see as a pitfall. A lot of people will go out, they go to Best Buy, Costco, wherever it is, and they're looking for a floor salesman to help them identify what technology is going to be best for their business. And then you're getting oversold in areas where you really shouldn't be overspending, and decreasing the budget that you have available for other areas that you're not going to hear about when you're visiting somebody at Best Buy. And so by positioning ourselves like that and showcasing to them what it's like having somebody who is truly working on behalf of their business, it usually helps to reduce those barriers and decrease some of the friction that can be there and make things just go a little bit smoother.
Man, so as you were talking through that, a few, we'll say, big situations have occurred in my career in the technology realm that finally helped the business understand how crucial it is to actually spend the money. Now, one, I'm not going to go into details, but one was a SAN controller failure that brought the entire corporation down globally. We're talking 3,000 employees for a period of about 40 hours during the middle of the week. extremely challenging. Myself, my lead engineer, we were in the data center for 36 hours straight, no sleep, just like having food brought in, like trying to work through it with the Ecologic engineers. And it was an absolute nightmare. And whenever I ran some rough numbers on the financial impact to the corporation, it was, well, we'll just say that I'm fortunate I was able to keep my job through the whole situation. It wasn't anything that we did wrong. It was a very traditional firmware update that just, like, it went bad and went about as bad as possible. But what's interesting about that is at that point in time, we were able to basically showcase part of the reason that we struggled so much is because the environment wasn't fully redundant, because we couldn't spend what we needed to spend to ensure maximum levels of uptime. And after that situation, the business recognized, oh, okay, now it's actually time for us to invest heavily in our environment. And it led to a $3.2 million AFE in an entirely new data center environment that we built out. It wasn't our data center, but we had a cage in a Verizon data colo. In any event, so we built this entire new environment out, which was just fantastic, worked out beautifully. Another incident at a different company, we'll say high-level financial person wired roughly $250,000 over to China, fell victim to an email phishing scam, and wired the money off. Now, fortunately, we were able to stop the wire transfer, but at that point, it was, okay, open checkbook when it comes to cybersecurity. Now, I share those examples because it's unfortunate that a lot of companies have to endure a situation like that before they recognize the value of investing in technology and how, yes, it can be a business enabler. However, it can also protect your business and mitigate that risk. So the value I see in working with somebody like you guys is that you're able to build that partnership and trust and really tell the story and showcase that this is something you need to do, because if you don't, this could happen. And it's not a matter of if, but when.
Yeah, that's very true, Sean. So I struggle with in this area because I don't like to be a doomsayer. I don't want to come out, trying to use scare tactics to get clients to spend money. But the reality is it's not a tactic at all. It's the reality that we live in. I have a small dental office who about 5 years ago they fell victim to a crypto lock, and they came in one morning, and all of their CRM was fully locked down. They couldn't access anything, and so this is a small practice. They had 2 locations. They serviced some very nice clientele, and they actually were working with an MSP. They reached out to the MSP and said, "Hey man, what do we do?" And the MSP was like, "Well, this is great. We've been managing your backups for an extended period of time now. We can look at some options, and we can look at just getting you all of your information back prior to it being held hostage." And then it turned out that they didn't actually have the backups. So things got even worse. And the client ended up, they figured it out. I won't even go into everything that they did. It was very unfortunate. They partnered with us afterwards. We gave them a list of about 10 different things that would need to go into place to help reduce the risk of this happening again. Because I'm honest, man. I was like, no matter how much we put into this, guys, you're still going to be there's still going to be some risk involved. But this will help you to avoid being targeted again. Out of that list of about 10 things, they went with 2. This was a company who fell victim to it, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't a super large amount of money, but it was like, I think $30K is about what it cost them. And I don't know about you, but $30K out of our company's pocket right now, that would hurt. It would not feel good. And the impact it had on their clients and on their network, their neighborhood, like that was felt. Their clients didn't have as much confidence in them. So to see on the back end where even when things do go wrong, there are still some companies out there that aren't going to take the necessary precautions to avoid it happening again, that's a reality. And And I would love to tell you a totally different story, you know, where like it happened to them and they learned all of their lessons and they moved forward with all of the different things that they should, but that's not the case for everybody. And I share this story not to explain the hardships of our job and how things don't always go easy, but I share this story to help other individuals, other business owners, hopefully learn from their mistakes. You know, when you have somebody that you trust who's a consultant or whatever the case is, if you trust them and you lean on them for their professional expertise, hear where they're coming from, because typically individuals are looking for your best interest. When you know them, you know what I mean? Like when you have that partnership, your friends, your close partners, they're not trying to take advantage of you. They're usually helping you avoid running into more mishaps. So,
you know, another thing, as you were kind of talking through that, is that, you know, going back to MSPs like yourself and having visibility into so many different environments, it gives you such a unique opportunity to get this exposure to all these different little individual worlds and figure out what works the best for each of them, and then share that knowledge across all of your customers. And, you know, further to your point of, you know, saying, okay, well, we've got these 10 suggestions and then they only take 2 of them. Okay, well, fair enough. That is a risk that business owner or those senior executives were willing to take. And a lot of the times it's just kind of like a financial calculation. Well, we can't spend 30 grand today, but we'll spend 5 grand and it'll mitigate 60% of the risk, or, you know, whatever the numbers turn out to be. But I think that as a partner in the technology space, coming in, sitting down, having those conversations, and really, I've found one of the things that's most successful is just asking the right questions, because being on the operator side of things and working with different MSPs, you know, I view it probably through a different lens because we've had a very technically proficient team. My background was in technology, so I could sit down relatively quickly with an MSP, get a sense of where their technical aptitude was at, and understand, is this somebody that makes sense for us to partner with over the long term? But as an MSP, the roles are reversed. You've got to be able to come in and ask the right questions to the people in the business. And I've found that to be extremely powerful whenever it comes to building trust. It's not about Shane coming in and, oh, well, we know Azure, we know Meraki, we know this and this, as opposed to sitting down and asking the business leaders, talk to me about your business challenges. What are the issues that you are struggling with? Okay, well, this technology solution can work best because this. So as a business owner, let's just say you start trying to put you in the seat of a business owner. They're interviewing or working with or having conversations with SD Tech, and I don't even know what the other MSPs in your space are, but they're sitting down with you and others. How do you guys differentiate yourself? Oh, who is that?
That is Josta. That is my senior Siberian Husky. And so let me tell you something, man. One of the things I've heard about Huskies is that it takes several years before they calm down. That's a lie. That dude's like, he's almost 13 years old, and he has so much energy all the time. So, he's
So anyways, beautiful guy. Yeah. So how do you differentiate yourself from your competitors?
So actually, so part of it's by our initial approach. The questions you presented, you know, what business challenges are you facing? What problems does your current technology introduce? What are you looking for us to solve? Those are honestly great questions, and they can really help you break in and help figure out. But the first question that I ever have for a potential new partner is, can you tell me about your business? I don't want to hear just about the problems. I want to know, like, what do you do from top to bottom? What's the product or the service offering that you offer your clients, right? What do your customers look like? What is your role? And and I don't want to know your title, because a title from company to company, it just varies, you know? And as a COO for a 15-man company, that's very different than a COO for Google. And the COO for Google is different than the guy from Amazon. So I don't want to know about your title. I want to know about what do you do? And then I want to know about what do your frontline employees do? What does your front desk look like? What are they responsible for? And then after 30, 40 minutes, it helps me better understand what you actually have going on from top to bottom. What does it look like in-house in order for you to support the product or service offering that you're offering to your clients? Because once I better understand that, then I'm not just reliant upon you telling me about your problems. I'm able to take my own experience, my wisdom as a business owner, and I'm able to look at it and then couple that with our MSP offerings, right? So then I can, when you're telling me about the problem about why your current phone system is cutting out or you're not getting the customer service that you're expecting, when I understand how that problem's actually impacting your employees and your customers, and I understand how vital your phone is, because this is, you know, it's a massive, important piece of your business, then I know where to put my emphasis. I know where my heart needs to be, because I don't want to just come across as somebody who's looking for new business. I truly want to build a long-lasting partnership, and I want for my clients to treat me not as a third party, but I want to be treated as the in-house guys that just happen to work remote. And the only way I can do that is by knowing the client and getting to a point to where I'm as invested as if I were one of their employees.
How long did it take for you to come to the realization that that is the best approach?
Me, not long. But that's only because I joined with somebody who had already been doing this for 15 years. And I think we ran numbers about three to 6 months ago, and I think it was 92% of all of our clients were from referrals or from direct face-to-face meetings. It was about 8% that came from SEO, advertising, marketing. That's it. It was like 8%. All the rest is very, very organic. And you cannot mean that type of organic relationship building without being as invested as we are. And that's the number one thing that separates us. I could tell you that it's pricing and structure and our ability to scale and the stack that we use and all of these other things, but those are the same things that all of our competitors are going to showcase about themselves. And it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's fantastic. And that is a great selling point. But for us, it's the majority of techie people are known for not being people. And somebody that's in the industry, and you clearly aren't that person. But I know that you've had plenty of close coworkers who are that person. And so we want to showcase that technology is about people. Technology is about supporting people. It's about supporting our businesses. And it's not just about this cold hardware and cold people who want to, as quickly as possible, get back to being behind their screens.
Man. Okay. That right there just sold me. Okay. So I am set. So yes, I am a people person now. But for the majority of my career, I was the typical IT guy that you can envision, locks the door to his office, turns the light off, banging away on my keyboard warrior, win every single keyboard war because I was always right. So that was my mindset. And it wasn't until 7 years ago I started leading human resources, I quickly realized, okay, this is not going to work. And I had to grow. I had to stretch. I had to learn more about how to interface with people and interact with people. So, okay, Shane, my final question for you is, what is one of the biggest things that you have learned in supporting all these different businesses? What are things that business owners and executives need to be focused on whenever it comes to technology in their business?
The biggest thing that people need to be focused on when it comes to technology in their business is understanding how that technology can support them. And I know that that probably seems obvious, and it may just seem like the most glaring answer, but there are still so many people who have been through really negative experiences, who have had, the disaster situations happen, and they still look at it as a cost. There are people who have watched an employee who was using an outdated computer, complaining about how slow it is, complaining about how it's holding up their customer experience, who gets a new computer, and they act like it's Christmas. And you can see that happen, but a few minutes, a few moments, a few days pass, and then you allow yourself to fall back into your habits. And when your habit includes treating technology as just a cost instead of looking at it as something that can enhance your day, enhance your experience, then you're missing out. And you're making things more difficult for yourself and for your employees. That's the number one thing I can offer up to people.
Yeah. All right, man. What is the best way for people to contact you?
The best way for people to contact me, I think you mentioned this earlier, is to look and find me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to reach out to me directly. If you are interested in learning more about SD Tech, then visit on our website at sd-tech.net.
Okay, perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, whenever it comes to business, technology is a crucial element to running your business. It is not simply a cost center. It is a business enabler if done right. We will have all of Shane's contact information in the show notes, also have the contact info and a way to get in touch with everybody at SD Tech. That is all we have for the show today. Thank you so much, and y'all have a good one.